Hi, I'm Ruth Marvel.
My name is Muriel Shofisan.
I'm the CEO of the Duke of Edinburgh Award.
I am a Gold DAV Award holder and a former DAV Young Leader.
We have over 370 staff and nearly 38,000 volunteers.
And this is my Duvet Flip.
What is your invisible success?
Synthesize of information and turning it into strategy.
Connecting with people. People see me as a safe space. That's awesome because human connectivity is part of what makes the world go round.
You're a partner with Compare the Market. We're a partner of Compare the Market. So tell me a little bit about the partnership.
And it's great to be partnering with a company which really want to invest in young people.
What are your 3 top tips?
Do not look at failure as forever, but it's a stepping stone.
If in doubt, say yes.
Are you ready for my final question?
Yes.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet? Welcome to my duvet flip. How are you both?
Pretty good, thank you.
How are you, Mary?
Good, thanks.
Feeling well? I'm so excited to hear about the first half is all around your career journeys and where has kind of life taken you in your career to get to where you are today. So, Ruth, I'm going to start with you. Like, the world of charity, you're now a CEO of a fantastic charity. Where did it all begin for you in terms of work?
Well, it's interesting because I left uni and I didn't really know you could work for a charity. So it was kind of all of the conversations about careers and kind of things you might want to go. I mean, working for a charity just never came up. But I knew kind of that, you know, the things that sort of seemed to be what other people were following just didn't really feel right. And I remember very early on as a sort of young teenager, I've always felt a very strong sense, I suppose, of sort of fairness and social justice. And while I was at uni, I kind of took a year out and did a sort of student union sabbatical. So I worked for the student union, essentially, and kind of represented students and did quite a lot of campaigning and sort of advocacy and tried to create sort of better conditions for students. And I really loved it. And so I thought, I wonder whether I can kind of find something that uses some of these skills and some of the things that kind of I've learned along the way. And I ended up just applying kind of quite randomly for a job with the charity as a campaigns officer. And by some miracle, I got it. I'm not entirely sure how, but I think actually a lot of the experience I'd had doing the sort of sabbatical year was actually what sort of clinched it. So for all of the, you know, academic qualifications and the degree, actually probably it was the sort of practical experience that really, you know, got me from sort of paper application sort of in the door. And I've been told, you know, oh, well, if you want to work for a charity, kind of you have to volunteer. And so I suppose I felt like there was a lot of myths sort of debunked in my experience of it. And actually, when it came to it, I just sort of had a go and applied and, you know, and was really fortunate to get my foot on the sort of, I suppose, the sort of, you know, the first rung of the ladder. And then since that, I've sort of worked my way. I've always worked in the charity sector ever since. Done lots of kind of different jobs and kind of learned a huge amount along the way. Worked with and kind of, you know, for lots of different chief executives, and it's been, yeah. I think though if I sort of wound the clock back to sort of when I was sort of like 20, thinking I had absolutely no idea this is where I was going to end up. So I think people kind of worry a bit, don't they, about, you know, you need to have a plan and you need to have a bunch of life goals and. I think I can probably say sort of hand on heart, I don't really have a plan, and kind of I have sort of gone where the mood has taken me slightly and been given lots of fantastic opportunities. But in some cases, sort of I think I've ended up where I am because I've said yes to a lot of those opportunities, and kind of when they came along, it was like, well, why not? I'll give that a go and see what happens.
What is your advice to young people who want to go into the charity sector when it comes to applying? Like you said about debusting some of those myths, which I totally agree with. Like, but what should they be doing?
Well, I think first and foremost, there's a sort of myth that basically you can't work for the charity sector, and kind of that's just not true. There's, you know, hundreds of thousands of people employed, paid to work for charities. I think there's another myth that, you know, you have to be a volunteer and kind of, I mean, it really helps to do some volunteering. It really gets you a sort of a sense of kind of what and volunteering is a huge part of the DV program, and I think it gives you loads of really valuable kind of work related experience. But you absolutely can work for a charity. So first and foremost, kind of, I think it is a career option. There are lots of people who have been, have got really fantastic, fulfilling careers through working in the charity sector. I mean, one of the things that I kind of, I suppose, when I reflect back on how have I sort of ended up where I've ended up, I think there's a lot of focus on kind of careers advice and thinking about, what subjects are you good at school and kind of what does that link to. But I think one of the things I've learned probably a lot through sort of the work we do at Duke of Edinburgh's Award is that actually if you kind of know what you're good at and you know what you like, you're in a really good position to sort of think about, how do you take those two bits of information and kind of apply them? Because there are so many jobs, sort of different jobs. I mean, it's a bit overwhelming, I think, if you're a young person now, just kind of half the things I've never even heard of. And then we've got, these amazing sort of technological kind of revolution coming sort of down the track, creating jobs that, none of us have ever heard of. So I think that sense of trying to hold on to some of those, understand yourself as well as you can. So understand what gets you out of bed in the morning, what's your duvet flip, what makes you sort of energized, and, what would you do even if you weren't going to get paid for? And kind of how do you combine that with a sort of, what are you really good at? Kind of what are what do other people tell you that you're good at? I think those two sort of bits of information sort of help you get quite a long way towards really thinking about where you might fit and kind of the kind of role that's going to make you happy. You have to spend a lot of your life at work as an adult.
I agree.
So my main piece of advice would be find something you like doing.
I know, find something. I love that advice because I think it's really spot on. Find out what's something you love you're doing, but also do some things that you don't like doing, because then you can get closer to the things that you do love doing, right?
Exactly. And you kind of, I always say to sort of young people that kind of, if how do you know you don't love it until you've tried it? And you'll probably try a bunch of things that you don't love. Great, it's all good information, isn't it? But there's a whole world out there. So if you don't try things and you don't experiment and give things a go, you never know whether the thing that is going to make you happy and fulfilled for the rest of your life isn't sort of sitting right in front of you. You just never found out.
I agree. And Mary, where did it start for you? Like the world of work, and how did you kind of land where you are? And what's your tips to anyone who's trying to figure out what they do?
Well, I'm going to take it a bit back in time. So I'm going to go back to secondary school. So that's where I first got involved with the DAV. I heard about it, but when I first heard about it, I was quite scared, because I was told you're going to have to do a big trek and carry a rucksack on your back that's the same size as you. And I was like, well, I can't do this. And I genuinely excluded myself from taking part because I thought I just don't have the capacity. But a local youth worker in my area, encouraged me to get involved, and they were like, you know what, you should try this. And that's how it started, just someone from the community encouraging me to take part. And when I did, it really kind of gave me a bit of confidence. I was out of my comfort zone. I was regularly engaging in activities that helped me, have confidence. And especially when it came to applying for university, I definitely included the DAV in my personal statement. I was like, well, I did this. I'm a committed person. I'm going to be an asset to, wherever I study. And that was definitely so useful. And I went to university to study law. And I also did a year abroad in Hong Kong. And, even doing that, came from the confidence I had in coming out of my comfort zone to take part in the DV in the first place. And so after university, paralegaled for a while, and then I ended up landing my training contract where I've been for almost 2 years. And yeah, I've had a great time exploring different areas of law. I did a secondment at a law firm as well, and also engaged in community things at work. So we have an AACN network, which is African Caribbean network, and that's been quite a safe place for me at work, where I get to engage with colleagues. We do great things for Black History Month and so many things. And so there's so many things that I've enjoyed as along my journey, and I think that came from volunteering in the DAV. So at work I volunteer because I learned to volunteer when I took part in the program, and I really enjoyed that. So that's something I still do today. And thinking of what I would encourage young people to do is definitely get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Living in Hong Kong, you know, as much as I did study Mandarin to A-level, Cantonese is a local language, so I'm still a bit out of my depth, but it was a fantastic opportunity. It grew me holistically as a person, and so being comfortable with the uncomfortable is a great way to grow, which is what the DV actually encourages, you know, especially when I did the expedition for the first time. I had never been camping. Like, my school we didn't do camping, all those kind of things. So I'm like, hey, ooh, there's a lot of mud. There's some trees.
No, I'll be saying the same as you. That there's a lot of mud, there's a lot of trees.
I was like, what's going on here? And so, you know, it was really uncomfortable, but it was a great experience. And I say uncomfortable, but I ended up enjoying it and having fun and just learning a lot about myself and actually building resilience, because something that I thought I couldn't do, I did it. And I think when you do that, you know, you become limitless in your mindset, because if you can conquer something small, you can conquer something big. It's just about your perspective, and sometimes just being in that uncomfortable position pushes you, and then you're like, okay, actually, it wasn't that bad.
I like that a lot. Question to both of you. Don't mind who goes first. Like, how does one go from encouragement to confidence? Because I'm a big believer, once you get the encouragement, you build the confidence to move forward. But anyone who's tuning in, a young person who's trying to build their confidence, what is your advice to them?
I'd say probably that confidence is born through experience. So you kind of can't learn to be confident from like a textbook, kind of, you know, watching a video. You have to go and do stuff. And kind of just like Mary was saying, that, you know, I think trying new things, putting yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, making yourself a little bit uncomfortable. What builds confidence is when you realise that actually in doing that, you've succeeded. And that sort of sense and feeling of success, you can sort of take and translate and take into, you know, other parts of your life. I think everybody who would say they feel confident doing the thing that they currently do probably wasn't confident doing that once upon a time. And, you know, the more practice you do at anything, the more confident you get. Even stuff that, you know, you don't particularly like doing, you'll get better at it. But I think confidence is, to some extent, it's a learned experience. It's kind of, unless you've actually gone and done some stuff and you prove to yourself, it's not about someone else telling you that you can do it. That obviously really helps to have lots of nice supportive people kind of willing you on and encouraging you to have a go. But you have to prove it to yourself, essentially, and you can only do that by having a go.
Absolutely. And what about you, Mary?
I agree. It's definitely that leap of faith. But something I'd also think is important is mentality. And I think it's important to have a vision. So even though it can be hard, especially if you're just like, I don't see, you know, I don't see myself this way. Sometimes you have to, even if someone encourages you, take that word, believe it. So sometimes it starts off with belief, and then that belief will end up cultivating confidence, and that translates into action. So sometimes you have to take that seed of belief and actually just believe it. So, you know, okay, maybe I want to do this, or so it's like literally sometimes you have to cheat yourself into like believing it. You're like, okay, I'm going to see myself as this. You know, I'm gonna believe that I can do this, even though I can't. You know, fake it till you make it. So it's not faking it. It's just sometimes envisioning yourself where you want to be and walking in that vision. Because it's gonna take time to get there. But if you operate in that mindset, then that vision and that mentality will kind of end up translating into the way you operate, the way you believe. If you really, you know, if you tell yourself, okay, I'm confident, you may not really feel it, but at some point you're just going to get up and you're going to have that motivation to act like it, you know. Or if there's, you know, different things, I feel like a vision is so important, but definitely taking that leap of faith. And I think the two together definitely, you know, it makes something happen. So that encouragement is the seed. Then you water it with a vision. Okay, I'm going to believe in myself. And then you take those actions, and then something happens.
I love that a lot. It starts with the seed, right? To move things forward. What would you say is your invisible success? so far in your career? Like I'm a big believer, and that's why I get so fascinated by meeting so many different people, especially you two today on the show, because the career path that you've walked and you've walked, Ruth, are completely different to what I've walked and the people watching this behind the scenes today. And you can learn and be curious from everyone. But I believe everyone has a invisible success in their career, and that might be that they're really good at presentations, or they're really good at speaking. For me, I'm dyslexic, so I find it really hard to write, but I have a picture memory. That's why I don't have no notes on the table. So, like, what is your invisible success in your career? Because I think we all have it, don't we?
I'd probably say that I'm really good at synthesizing kind of information and sort of turning it into a clear sort of plan or a soundbite or a kind of the sort of, I guess it's one of the things that kind of is very useful when you're thinking about strategy. So kind of, there's vast amounts of information. You have to sort of, what should we do? Where should we go? What's there? And I put some of that down to the kind of, I did a history degree, kind of, as people would say, there's not much use for a history degree, but it teaches you kind of a particular way of thinking and and that ability to just, I think, synthesize huge amounts of information. I did a lot of work early in my career in sort of policy and kind of, there's a huge amount of kind of influence around kind of the work that charities do to try and influence government policy. It makes such a material difference to kind of people's lives. And so you can change a lot and influence a lot in terms of kind of helping make the world fairer and kind of, by being skillful at being sort of able to influence policy. And a lot of it's problem solving, essentially. So that's probably, I'd say, where my kind of, if I had a superpower, that's probably it. I find that quite easy, and that's a kind of, and often I think the other thing when you're thinking about careers is often the stuff that you find easy is the stuff that other people don't, and you often don't therefore think very much about it, do you? Or kind of don't notice it because you think, oh well, maybe everybody finds that easy, but it's kind of really helpful if you can kind of identify some of those things.
Well, I've got a few long emails that I need debusting, if you can simplify them for me. And what about you, Mary? What would you say your invisible success is?
I don't know if I could say it's invisible, but I think one of my, I guess I'll say invisible success is connecting with people and speaking. I feel like I think like I'm able to connect with people, and I just meet people, build relationships, and even where I work, just bumping into people like at the most random places, whether it's at the kitchen and the bathroom. I just feel like I have a good ability to connect with people and build really good relationships and like encourage others. So through building that relationship, I'm able to like get to know people and encourage them, and people see me as a safe space. And I think that's awesome because I think human connectivity is part of what makes the world go round.
You know what? I totally agree. I see that today. We have some of the top CEOs in the country come into here, and they're socially awkward before they come live on TV on here. And I could just easily get on with you. You asked a lot of questions. You was curious, and I could just see that. So I totally agree. You say it's not an invisible success because I saw it, but it is an invisible success because so many people don't do it. So with our partners Compare the Market, I'm asking 2 questions for around money. Are you ready?
Yes.
So the first one is, what is one money regret that you regret the most, and why?
I think probably we have developed as part of the skills section for DV, a whole section on kind of finance and kind of personal finance, and I kind of think I regret not having done that. No, I was not younger. I think there's a lot of things about money that we don't teach young people, and kind of actually there's a lot that it would have been really helpful to know about. That you find out later on that you think, that would have been helpful to know then.
Well, send me that course my way because I need some. Mary, what about yourself?
One money regret, I'd say not budgeting. So I feel like I've learnt about budgeting or implemented budgeting so late. And so, through my university years, I'm just like, okay, I was like, I look back and I'm like, maybe a budget would have been really useful. Maybe it would have been, yeah.
Budgeting tips are brilliant. It's brilliant because we forget to budget, right? And just, where do you start? Are you ready for my next question?
Yes.
what is your simples money tip to your 18-year-old self?
I'd say save if you can. Obviously, everyone is in different financial circumstances, and some people have financial responsibilities which make it hard for them to save. But where possible, save, because it can make a difference. And for that rainy day, life is so unpredictable. It's important to save, to be able to actually maybe do things you want, but also prepare for the unexpected. So save, just a little bit on the side. That's my money tip.
In a very similar vein, I would say get a pension. It feels like a really long way away, and it feels like one of the things, people talk pensions and everyone falls asleep, but as it's a very efficient and kind of effective way to save money for kind of later in life, and the sooner you probably get into the habit of it, albeit as Mary says, it can be difficult to sort of try and put stuff away when you're not earning loads. It will pay dividends literally in the long run, and your employer contributes, which is really important.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for sharing your money tips with myself and Compare the Market. Ruth, I'd like to start by talking a bit. We've obviously got a little bit of a connection because you're a partner with Compare the Market.
Yes.
We're a partner of Compare the Market. So tell me a little bit about the partnership.
Well, we're really excited. We've just started working with Compare the Market, and they are going to help us basically develop some skills resources. So young people who are doing their DV award have to do a kind of activity under a range of different sort of sections. So they get a really broad range of different experiences. And one of those sections is skills. So you have to pick a skill and you have to kind of set yourself a goal and you have to work towards kind of getting better at it. And Compare the Market are going to partner with us to develop some fantastic kind of new sort of resources around sort of technical, like digital and technological skills, designed kind of with young people. So we're really sort of thinking about what do young people want to learn, what are they not getting elsewhere, and we are really looking forward to seeing how it all goes. But I think it's really exciting, and it's great to be partnering with a kind of company which is really wanting to invest in young people and kind of really wants to think about how to support young people on their kind of career journey. And it dovetails really well with kind of, I guess, Duke of Edinburgh's whole ethos, which is, we're here to help young people develop themselves. We're helping people sort of get the experiences, undertake the kind of activities that are going to really help to sort of develop the key skills that young people need for life and work. So very excited about
that. Sounds so exciting. That's such a good partnership. And why is it important for companies, corporates to kind of get involved and work with the charity?
Well, essentially, we're all about helping young people sort of prepare young people. The transition between sort of, being in school and kind of moving into the world of work is massive. Young people are going through this massive range of changes kind of from, and it's a bit daunting. I think we all kind of can sort of remember back thinking, God, there's a lot of, a lot of uncertainty, trying to work out who you are, what's important to you, kind of what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I wish I knew. So we kind of, I guess, to see ourselves as providing a sort of framework that really helps young people to sort of to do that. And I guess we hear a lot from businesses about the fact that actually the sorts of skills that they are looking for in kind of young people are often actually they're not necessarily developing through the sort of formal education system. So a lot of things that we put a lot of store in at Duke of Edinburgh's Award is things like, developing confidence and self-belief, developing resilience, as Mary was talking about, developing teamwork skills, communication skills, the sort of things that, you can't learn from a textbook, and that you can only learn through experience. So we both think that kind of, we know that employers are crying out, to hire young people who have got these kinds of skills. And so, we're delighted when we could partner with organisations that, really want to sort of get involved with us kind of a bit sort of further upstream and help develop the resources and opportunities and kind of help us reach as many young people as possible with these opportunities. Because, the more of those partners we can have, the more young people we can reach. And, hopefully the more young people feel like when they're kind of through the award, they leave school and college really kind of well set up and prepared to go into the world of work.
I love that. And you've got your gold, haven't you? Your gold award. Tell me about that experience.
Okay, so I did my gold award some time ago. And as part of the DV award, you have to take part in the skill section, a physical activity that you do regularly, and also volunteering. So with volunteering, I volunteered with my local council, which was Hackney. So I grew up in Hackney, and I was part of like the youth forum. So they have hubs in Hackney, and I volunteered with my hub with young people, like getting to know them, and also I was part of the youth council. So the Hackney Youth Council, I think it was called, but it was basically the Hackney Youth Parliament. That was what it was called, the Hackney Youth Parliament. So through that, I was able to like volunteer, and we did some campaigns as well about advice in schools. So that there's in school young people get advice from careers advisors, and investigating that, how effective that was, how did young people feel about that, and also another campaign we did was about the line between abuse and discipline, which was quite interesting that we did that. There were so many things that we explored as part of the Hackney Youth Parliament, considering what are the things affecting young people in our borough today. And so that was like my volunteering part, and that's got me really into volunteering. And then for skills, I did music. And for my physical activity, I did dance, shake a leg. So those are the things that I did to like keep active. And, there were things that I really enjoyed. And as I say, I volunteered till today. So those are things that have stayed with me. And I think one of the good things about it is that you do it for a period of time. And as you're reflecting, you're actually considering how you're growing, like how you're evolving as a person, being dedicated, especially because I did the bronze and the gold. I remember for I think it was the bronze, I was doing like exercise, and sometimes when you're tired, you've got lots of homework in school, you might not feel like it, but you also learn discipline by being dedicated to what you are doing. So I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed that, like the development I had with myself. And even doing the young leaders program, I met people from different parts of the UK who I didn't know, and we did training on safeguarding, like considering young people, and that was quite useful, especially because I was already involved in my local community in Hackney. So it was really nice to kind of grow, develop, and the expedition was also amazing too, challenging as it was. I was like, okay, here we go, Peak District, fields and fields. But it was genuinely fun, because actually I hiked today. Like I started recently hiking again. Like there's some hiking groups, for young people that I just joined, and I was like, okay, you know what? This reminds me of like the expeditions. Actually, I actually enjoy being outdoors and walking. So yeah, there's so much that I can say that it definitely has contributed to who I am today.
I can see you're passionate for it so much, which is brilliant. And like I asked Ruth around why corporates and brands should get involved, what's your message to young people to get involved? Why should they kind of, after seeing you, well, I don't think you need to say anything else after seeing how much passionate you are, but what is your message to young people who maybe go, oh, actually, I want to get involved?
I think a young person should definitely do the DAV, because it will help you grow. It will help you grow as a person, and you will learn. You will meet other young people who are doing it. You will learn more about yourself, and you will surprise yourself, because something that to yourself you might have thought is a limit. So you might have, if you hear about it, you may think, oh, there's so much. You'll be surprised at how much you can achieve when you just get involved and just do it. So no, this is not a Nike ad. But sometimes you just have to kind of like take that leap of faith, as I mentioned earlier, and it will definitely be something that definitely will stick with you for life. And it's useful. As I said, I mentioned it in my personal statement, going to university is something that has stuck with me, and I think it's really worth getting involved, because it will help you evolve as a person. I think that's the word I'm looking for, evolve. Yeah.
And why should everyone should take up a bit of volunteering or getting involved with the local community?
I mean, I'd say that kind of like volunteering is magic, right? There's a sort of the best kept secret about volunteering is that kind of actually the thing that volunteering is best for is you. It makes you feel great. Kind of, we've got the world selling us tonics and potions and things to kind of improve our well-being. Go out there, help somebody else. And I think that sort of ethos of just, when you realise essentially that you have got skills and capabilities and kind of time that are valuable to somebody else, it's incredibly rewarding. And there are so many different ways you can volunteer. We have, young people through DFE gave 5.2 million hours in volunteering time last year, which is just phenomenal.
That is brilliant.
And as Mary's a brilliant example. Lots of those young people kind of go on to carry on volunteering, and we have a lot of challenges and problems in the world. We need volunteers, kind of perhaps more than ever. But I think my sort of message would be: A, it's brilliant for you, it makes you feel great. It's also really helpful. It helps bring people closer together. It helps build sort of community connections. You might meet people that you'd never otherwise meet in kind of day-to-day life, and all of those things help bring us together, build stronger bonds between us. And I think we kind of reflect on the state of the world at the moment. The closer we can get together, the more we can trust each other, the more we can sort of help each other out and give the things that we can give, and sort of receive the things that we need in return, the better. So I hope that the work that we're doing through DV is kind of helping to set up lots of young people for a kind of a life of volunteering and sort of giving back. But I do think it's the best kept secret in terms of how great it makes you feel.
Brilliant. And what about yourself? You're volunteering. What would your message be to others who are considering volunteering but may not be doing it currently?
I'll echo what Ruth said. I think it's so important, and one thing that comes to mind is that it's important for us not to remain in silos. Community is so important, and sometimes you volunteering can change someone's life. And it's not about, it doesn't need to be something extraordinary. Sometimes it's just something small, even if it's like going to an old people's home and giving them a bit of joy in their day. That makes a world of a difference. Like, there's so many ways that you can add value to someone else, and it does make you feel so good. It's scientific. It is. So I definitely think that, it's important for us to not remain in silos.
World's best kept secret and scientific. That's what volunteering is. I love it. And what three things in your career, in your life, that has really made you stop and think in a form of a soundbite? I know, Ruth, you're good at soundbites, that you would like to share with all our audience. What was three things? And it could be to do with work, it could be with volunteering, it could be doing with what you did last week in terms of buying some frozen lollipops. It could be anything, but what is it? What are your three top tips to the next generation when it comes to the world of work, life, and everything in between?
Well, one I'd say is I think it's something I feel that sort of stood me in good stead, is just sort of, if in doubt, say yes. I think there are lots of opportunities that will come along. There are lots of things that, and you might not necessarily be looking for it, or it might just kind of happen in a sort of, slightly incidental way, but kind of, there are doors that open, or kind of opportunities that present themselves, and you think, if I hadn't said yes to that, this whole bit of my life would never have happened. And so I think there's a lot to be said for just kind of embracing opportunity as it comes along.
Well, thanks for embracing today and joining us on the show, both of you.
So one thing I would say is to have audacity. This is something that quite a few people have been saying recently, but I really think it's so strong. Sometimes you have to be brave. And when I say audacity, it's that kind of saying yes. So, or creating opportunity, networking. I think networking is so important, and networking, as much as it sounds very formal when we say networking, but just connections, connecting with people, building authentic relationships. Things can happen that way, and I think that's some of the ways that the best opportunities just naturally arise, when you build an authentic connection with someone and you just realize that there's some sort of purpose in your meeting. So I think having a bit of audacity, building authentic connections, and failure is not forever. Failure is not forever. A lot of young people have and will experience failure, whether it's academic failure at some point, maybe a subject you picked wasn't your niche, or you realize maybe that's not the way you work well, or maybe you need extra support. And sometimes people only realize that later on in their life, and that's okay, but failure is not forever. Like, you will have so many more opportunities to smash it, and there's going to be so many more things coming your way. So do not look at failure as forever, but it's just a stepping stone. It's just, you're just learning more about yourself. So I'd encourage young people with that, because it can be quite intimidating, whether it's applying to university, a job, or academics. It can be a bit of a setback if you get a no, or if you don't get exactly what you want, but it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely. And Ruth, your other two. So say yes.
Say yes. I think ask for help. That's the other. I mean, I think to sort of Mary's point about networks and, reach out, create connections. It's like, actually, nobody got to places of nobody gets to senior leadership positions without kind of having to learn how to do stuff they didn't know how to do and lean on lots of other people to help them. And if they say they do, then they're not. True. And I guess if I reflect back on sort of my career, there have been some really important people who have kind of either modelled for me kind of what, good, authentic kind of leadership looks like, or, helped me out when I asked, or gave me some friendly advice. And I think, working in the charity sector, we often are kind of, it can be quite challenging leadership roles in the charity sector. We're often, struggling for money. We're often, and we often run kind of really quite complex organisations with kind of multiple sort of almost businesses within them. And I rely really heavily on a kind of my network of kind of fellow sort of charity leaders, and kind of, to support each other, and to kind of have each other's back, and to kind of be a shoulder to cry on, and to go, how on earth are you dealing with this situation? So that sort of sense, effectively, it kind of, there's that nice adage, it takes a village to raise a child, right? It takes a whole bunch of people to run an organisation effectively. And so not only is it sort of asking for help as a leader, but also recognising actually your whole organisation is this incredible source of kind of innovation and ideas and perspectives that kind of, if you don't tap into those, and you don't ask, and you don't kind of get, you're going to end up trying to make lots of decisions by yourself, which is a very lonely place to be, but also is not conducive to good decision making.
Wow, those tips are brilliant. Are you ready for my final question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
I'd say people. So it links to my invisible superpower. I love meeting with people. I love connecting with people. I love my family, like friends. And I think people make the world go round. Without people, there would be nothing. So my duvet flip is people, connecting with people, making memorable moments, impacting one another, and making great memories.
Yeah. I love that. Ruth? What flips your duvet?
Quite hard to, so my duvet flip, I think, is purpose, essentially. I worked for charities for a reason, because they kind of give me a really strong sense of kind of what I do every day. The reason I get out of bed in the morning is to kind of try and make the world a better place. It sounds a bit trite, but kind of genuinely, I think that's, it's so important to me. That's what gives me energy. That's what kind of makes me sort of, think there's another problem down the road that I have to tackle. Great, but kind of it's all in service, essentially, of kind of something bigger. So, I mean, I think that stemmed from sort of probably when I was really quite young, a real strong sense of kind of fairness and injustice. And I kind of, I was searching, I suppose, for a kind of place through which I could use my skills and, the sort of time I had to hopefully look back in, a few years' time and go, I did make a bit of a difference to other people's lives. So, I think that's sort of probably also my message to other young people who were kind of thinking about this, kind of, that encouraging young people to think about careers in the charity sector. It's sort of often not one of those ones that gets sort of top of the list in terms of kind of the careers fair. But you can do so many different jobs, you can do so many different roles, kind of every role that you can imagine in a company are kind of replicated in charities, and you get this fantastic sense of sort of achievement and purpose when you work in the social sector.
Well, we'll be on the top of the list after this has gone live. I just want to say thank you for your energy, your kindness, for sharing your wisdom, and just joining us on the show today. It's been brilliant, and it's good to get to know you both a little bit, so thank you.
Thank you.
And there we are. Goes quick, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness.